Welcome everyone to Soccerex Connected. My name is Natasha Henry and this is the panel for the pathway for gender equality. I'm gonna get straight to the ladies, and if we could go to Katie first, if you could just introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Katie Griggs. I'm the Vice President of Business Operations for Atlanta United, and the easiest way to describe it is if it's not happening on the pitch, it's probably something that I'm working on a day-to-day basis. Unlike a lot of individuals, I didn't actually get my start to my career in the world of sports. I've had the opportunity to work in after a master's degree, and ultimately my entire path has been built upon skill sets, diversity of experiences, and I am incredibly excited to be here today.
And Elise, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hey, thanks, Natasha. I'm Elise Lehu, General Manager of Sky Blue FC of the National Women's Soccer League. And I've been the GM here for about a year and a half now, new project I took over recently, but I was a GM with the Chicago Red Stars of NWSL for 5 years. And I've honed my career entirely, almost entirely, in women's football. So I've worked here for about 12 years. I do both the technical side and the business side, which I love in women's sports. So I get my hands in both sides of the kettle there.
Next up, we have Hani Talgier from FIFA.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hani Talgier. Actually, I co-founded women's football in Palestine, and I started playing in the old streets of Bethlehem. And how did I manage to FIFA? It's my passion for football and the way it gave me the hope to change the social, cultural, political barriers and bring hope to society at large and to the world and girls in general around the world. And that's why I always describe it as from the streets of Bethlehem to the world stages of FIFA and beyond. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Julia.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you, Soccerex, to invite me for such great panel with amazing women. So I am the CFO and head of legal department in the Alverca SAD. It's a third division club in football in Portugal, but it's a great project, and we have the ambition to put them in the high level competition again. I work at the football for more than 10 years. I'm former in the Traffic Sports Europe. We start on the club Estoril Praia in the second division and put them in the first division in the Europe League. So to be in football, it's a challenge and it's a passion as well. Thank you.
So let's get started, ladies. We've got a lot to talk about. Firstly, what do you feel are the biggest barriers stopping gender equality at this point? Hani, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Definitely, I think that the most barrier for women or for gender equality is actually that we don't have women in the leadership positions, or we don't have enough women in the leadership positions. I mean, as far as the men still hiring men, this perpetuate the male culture in the sports industry that is not inclusive for women and women's points of views and women's opinions and perspective. And of course, as we know, women is half of the population, 50% of the world population. So participation in decision-making position is the right timing now for women to be part of it. So as far as men only making the decisions of behalf of women, then things will not change and the obstacles will continue and the challenges will remain. Of course, there's step forward for change. Organizations and government bodies are trying to ensure more investments for women's football, more women in leadership positions, but it's going to be slow unless we have women making decisions as well and have a seat and a voice at the table, because if they don't have a voice at the table, we might be also on the menu. So that's the thing that we always have, right? So we definitely need a seat at the table and a voice, not just a quota. Quotas are definitely important, but we need women to be proactive and make decisions and be part of the decision, because that's what the potentials are. And when we have women representing most of organizations, then it's easier and the challenges are less. So that's why also we encourage our 211 member association at FIFA, where there's a step forward that women to be presidents and women to be secretary generals, because I believe leadership is from bottom to the from the top to the bottom. Of course, grassroots and from development to elite level, it's very important, but we need to ensure that women definitely is part of the decision making. And for me, I see that is the main challenge that facing the world today. Of course, there are many others, but we need women and we need their voices and we need them to stand there and be in the management board and be in top clubs and top federations and discuss and decide on behalf of girls and women all around the world.
Elise, I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
I agree. I think Honey said it very well. I think you have to have diversity at the table, or you're going to miss large segments of the population if those people aren't represented as part of the conversation. So Honey's absolutely right that you need to lift more women into these leadership roles. And I would go further to talk about governance. And she mentioned quotas a little bit in there that I think, we've proven when left to our own devices, we don't lift a lot of women into these situations. So I do think, maybe mandating quotas could be part of helping that, but their voice also has to be heard as part of it. So I do look at that governance side. One other side, just very quickly, I'll touch on that in the US, it's broadly mentioned that women's sports only gets 4% of total sports coverage. So, when I'm out here running an NWSL team and it's very, very difficult for me to get any level of coverage, it's going to be hard to look at women on an equal playing field when we're just not covered in the same way. I mean, even when I talk about it, if I could just get to 10% of coverage, what a difference that would make for people attending my games or getting sponsorship dollars. It's just inequitable until we have a better representation publicly. And that goes across all of society, is that they need to see women in these roles. They need to see women's sports. If you can't see it, you can't be it. It's hard to, as a young girl, it's hard to imagine being a pro athlete if you just never see it. And I would say the same for boys, for men. If they don't see women doing these things regularly and make it very natural, it's going to be difficult to imagine an equitable society, especially when it comes to sports.
Julia, me and you spoke earlier about health being a factor. I wonder if you could elaborate on that for us, please.
Yeah, actually, I think it's almost all women have this kind of hate in our shoulder, because we always need to put our personal life behind or in the second plane. So you always need to postpone, have a baby or whatever. And when you have some kind of issues, have a baby, they can see you like a weak or not fit to take that role or be responsible or take care of the same way. It is not true. To be a mother or to have some health issues does not mean you are not capable of or not responsible of, and you not take your role and take your high position the same way.
So Katie, I'll come to you with this question. What structures do you feel we need to put in place to really start to make a change?
No, I think Elise had touched on it from a governance standpoint, and from a structural perspective, it is something where it is very, very hard, even when you're starting to see more women coming in at younger levels, which is fantastic, at least in our organization. If you don't see someone who looks like you, who has a similar background to you, who you can role model yourself on, it's easy to convince yourself that you can't get there. If there's no one else that looks like you, there's probably a reason for that. And I think at least in our organization, we've reached a point where we are starting to see a much more diverse group of individuals coming in at those lower levels. And we know that this is an industry that historically has been premised more on that sort of apprenticeship growth pattern. You come in, you work your way up. So I really do think that it's a matter of trying to find ways to bring in more diverse people, diversity reflecting not just gender, but ethnicity, but also economic background and life experiences, because it really does come down to not only how do you speak authentically to the global fan base, which is intrinsically diverse, but also how do you model for those underneath you that there is a path to succeed, and therefore giving them the confidence that whether you are a man, whether a woman, whether you're a person of color, you too can have a seat at that table.
I mean, obviously we have the Rooney Rule from NFL. Honey, do you think something like that would work for gender equality to ensure we get an increased number of women within the game?
For me, I actually believe that policies and regulations are a key. If we don't embrace policies and regulations in our statutes and in the law, it's as such, change will be difficult to be made faster than it should be. I mean, we talk about it. We talk all the time. We have conferences, we have speeches. We also have men participating in the talk, and we have also men leading the change for women. Of course, we have agents of change as well, definitely. And we need men to be part of the change because they are mostly decision makers currently. So, but I believe if we don't have specific policies and regulations to ensure that women have a seat and a voice at the table, things will not accelerate the way we want. And then it will take more time and more time to reach the equality that we want to reach for. And I think here we should all fight for feminism, whether we are men or women, because feminism means equal opportunities, equal rights, equal chances at all levels, on the pitch and definitely on the pitch. I mean, I'm talking here on the pitch as well because I used to be a football player and I understand the inequalities that we have to face every day in our lives compared to men's football, from infrastructure to equipment to football kits to everything, to money prices, etc., etc. And now off the pitch as well. And I see how it is challenging for women without having policies and regulations to ensure that they have a space and they have a voice. And that therefore, FIFA is trying to change that perceptions and perspective, and also add and ensure that women investments in women football is really going in the right directions. For example, from now to 2022, we have FIFA has announced investments for 1 billion for women's football, also for the pandemic COVID relief that we are doing now. 500,000 of it's conditional for women's football. So I think when governing bodies, when member associations, when clubs and leagues, even countries and governments ensure that there are policies and regulations, here we can see a step forward for gender equality.
I mean, having spoke to all of you, I know we all agree that equality as a whole over football is lacking, whether that's gender, race, sexuality. So we actually have a question from the audience, which is, how do we bring more women of colour into positions of power? And I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on that, Elise.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I've been talking about this frequently because when I looked at my own staff, I think I get, an A+ on the gender report card. We have the only woman head coach in NWSL and surrounded by, great women on staff. But we're very homogenous. And that was an eye-opening moment for me to realize that as a leader, I maybe have not created the environment where women of color look and go, I can get a job there. Because if you look at my staff, they're probably going to look at it and go, why would I apply? There's no Black women on staff. There's no women of color. So I myself have created an environment that probably looks unwelcoming. And I think for many organizations, you can probably look at yourself and say, have I created a welcoming environment? To that point where many women on this panel have talked about that, if you can't see it, it's hard to imagine yourself being in that role. You need more women leaders in these roles to aspire to. Well, I say the same thing for women of color. If they don't see another, woman of color in that role, probably looks like an unachievable goal. So it sort of becomes that why bother applying. So I take that on myself as a leader, and I hope that other leaders will as well, to make really dramatic changes over the coming years to create a space where women of color feel welcome coming in. And they're certainly welcome at Sky Blue, but we look very homogenous right now, and I have to change that. But creating those safe spaces, those welcoming spaces for more women to apply for these roles.
Katie, from a business operation perspective, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I couldn't agree more. And I do think it's one of the unique elements that I've been able to bring in and that we are looking forward to continuing to expand upon is understanding that diverse backgrounds can be complementary, and not just from a diversity of humanity, but also perhaps someone doesn't have a lifetime career in football, right? The reality is, at least where we are, Black players are less common in the sport of soccer or the sport of football where we are right now. And I think So you may have someone who doesn't see themselves as fitting in simply because they haven't played soccer at the highest levels, or because this hasn't been something they've been tracking toward, but they have a unique perspective that would help the club be stronger, sell more tickets, reach new diverse audiences. Fundamentally, especially here in the United States, football is very much in a growth stage, and looking towards the World Cup in 2026, there's a tremendous opportunity to engage audiences that historically perhaps have been underrepresented or been underengaged. And so it is really looking at it from within and saying, okay, when you're creating a job requirements listing, or when you're actually interviewing candidates, I think there's getting out of our own way and getting out of the headspace of, okay, well, this person's background looks like mine, right? Or this person's experience looks like mine, and therefore they're safe and a good hire. It's really looking at what are the skills and perspectives that they're going to bring to the table, and looking at your leadership team holistically to understand, okay, how do you incorporate someone who perhaps does have a different background, and realize that they're going to drive tremendous value by having that diverse perspective. And perhaps you have to invest more on the coaching side on whether it's a sport element or some of the technical specificity, but truly it is that diverse perspective that will make you stronger. So I think some of it does come simply down to the recruitment side.
I mean, we all agree we're in quite a privileged position in our careers, and we all believe in mentorship and paying it forward. So I wanted to ask, if we start with yourself, Julia, what message would you give to a young girl or a college student who is looking to take the steps you've taken and move into positions similar to yours?
I'm definitely a dreamer. I really believe football is one of the most powerful activities on the world, because through football, you can reach anyone, rich, poor, doesn't matter the color of your skin, like everybody talk about, your religion, your political aspiration, and I hope soon your gender. We have improved, but I'm aware it's a long way, a long way to walk with high heels. But I will still believe this beautiful and powerful sport will be an example where the equality and respect in all areas is possible and fantastic in the middle of all diversity we have. So be resilient, strong, cry in closed doors if you can hold your tears, but always believe in yourself, in your goals. You will lose sometimes, take a lesson, stand up. It's not a game. It's a championship and it's a journey. That's what I would say.
Everyone was nodding in agreement there. Honey, do you have anything to add to that?
Actually, I changed a little bit my message about dreaming big for the girls and, follow your dreams and all, because I started to believe, or I believe all those girls and youngsters, they have dreams, they have skills, they have potentials, they are strong, they are resilient, and they want to change their societies, and they want to become whatever they want to become. But I want my message to be for societies and for leaders, for politicians and for government bodies everywhere. Don't kill those dreams for those girls and for youngsters, because they have it. Just instead, give them the opportunities, give them the platform, give them the tools to embrace their dreams and their visions and their potentials and their strength, because they know that they can make it. They just want us, leaders and politicians and organizations, NGOs, to help them up and lift them to where they want to be, and give them the opportunities. And that is my message, that to embrace all these opportunities and give the potentials to those who are able and strong and they want to dream big. Thank you.
I mean, we've definitely seen a change over the past few years, but I know it's not as quick as any of us would like. Elise, do you feel businesses are finally seeing both the commercial and the PR benefit of being involved with women in the game and the women's game?
Yeah, I've certainly seen it here in the US with the US women's national team winning another World Cup. That's always a really big dramatic moment. And I actually look to that as one of the only moments in women's sports in this country that gets really widely covered very frequently. And we've seen the commercial response to that. That's been really tremendous. And I always say that we are not a charity. Women's sports are not a charity. There's really good ROI on investing in women's sports properties. I think we've seen that, and I'll just use the NWSL as an example again, but with a major partner like Budweiser that came on board, and they've been tremendously satisfied with the relationship. And we can always look at women's sports as there's that emotional element to sponsoring it, where it might just be equitable. If they're, sponsoring a men's team, they should sponsor a women's team. And you're always going to have that kind of emotional aspect to it. But for me, as a business person, it's about the return on investment. And this is a really great way to invest for a company, because of we're smaller, we're more nimble, the way we can move and pivot with our partners. We found that our fans are extremely loyal. They're very brand loyal to partners that support women's sports. So we've seen a tremendous uptick on the commercial side, both at our league level and for myself at Sky Blue. And again, I never call it charitable. It's an absolute return on investment. And if you're going to invest your money with me, I'm going to work really, really hard to make sure that this is a really positive partnership for you.
Katie, have you seen a similar experience to what Elise has had?
Certainly. I mean, from a men's football perspective, I mean, when we look at our composition of our fan base, it's hugely female, right? And not just females as in mothers bringing their families, that is a large portion of it, but also that young, more millennial, single, empowered female bringing their friends. I mean, a lot, at least in our market, you see a lot of women who grew up playing football. It was their sport. And it's something where I think when we started as a new club, we began playing in 2017 in Major League Soccer. When we began playing, it was a lot of those young women who truly embraced us and said, this is my sport. We're going to support you. And they're bringing their friends, their families, male, female, et cetera. And so for us, when we're going out and talking, not only from a ticket sales revenue standpoint, but also from a commercial partnership, Elise is exactly right. I mean, one of the reasons that we're actually able to do such innovative things with our partners is because we reach such a diverse fan base, that particularly if you're looking at a large partner, and Budweiser is a great example, where they've got a large brand portfolio underneath them, they can actually leverage our property to reach a lot of different demographics groups all in one. So it's something where there's very, very much a commercial understanding of the fact that the more effective we are at targeting diverse demographic groups, the more valuable we will deliver to our partners.
So we've got another question from the floor. Obviously, recently, Brazil and England have announced equal pay for both their international players. And there's a club in England, Lewes FC, which is the first professional club to pay both their men's and women's team equally. Julia, is this something you feel is really important for not only showing belief in the women's team, but showing them respect as well?
Yeah, I really think this is a huge thing in the soccer, in the football industry, because it's a huge difference. It's huge, and not just on the field, not just about the players and the leadership side. It's you can see with a lot of time women's have payment with a low price and the same spot than a man, and they used to sometimes gain the double and the 3 times. On the field, sometimes it's worse than that. And I think this is very important. I don't believe this will happen soon, just some examples, but I really think, I will believe the path, it's just follow these examples and make the football more equality, because it doesn't matter with what women or men, if you make the same job and you have the same of the dedication, you deserve to have the same salary.
We've got another question from the floor. So what do we think about the rise of women-only fronted teams, such as Angel City? I'll leave that open to the panel, whoever'd like to answer.
I guess that's my wheelhouse, so I can talk about Angel City and NWSL. So they, to be fair, they have male owners as well, but obviously from a public-facing standpoint, they have a tremendous group of female ownership across the board, and female celebrity, which is of course great for our league. As I said to them when they came in, I said, can we have a draft to disperse all of your celebrities, like one per team, so that I can get a little extra benefit out of this, because there's just so many celebrities on that group. But I think that they are, I've already talked to their ownership and just said, I'm here, even though I've been doing this for 10, 12 years, I'm here to learn from you because you're going to bring something very new to the table that we haven't had. This sort of celebrity, they have a lot of tech background, they come from different industries. I want to learn from them. That's what's most exciting to me. So I can't wait for them to join the league. And I think that bringing a lot of women to the table again is going to be a new perspective for our league, and something that, even though I've been doing this a long time, I am so excited to watch and see what they're going to do, and can't wait to watch and learn.
Honey, I can see you nodding in agreement there.
No, I'm absolutely in agreement. And I think platforms such the FIFA Women's World Cup, which happened in France 2019, was a great success. And it will give the courage to many federations and clubs to invest more in women's football, because they have seen the success and the example is there. So we are looking forward for 2023 to host the World Cup in New Zealand and Australia, which are also two countries who embrace gender equal pay in their teams for men and women. So and also we increased the team. FIFA increased the team from 24 to 32 teams. So it gives more opportunities for other teams to participate and to be part of the game and have success. So I believe such examples are great to encourage investments in women's football and give them the platform and encourage sponsors and TV sponsors and rights for everyone to watch women's football.
Katie, do you think this may be the way forward? Are they going to be the example?
I apologize, I was unable to hear that question.
Do you think Angel City are going to be the example for the way women's football moves forward?
I think that they're a really exciting example. I mean, groups of individuals like Elise and others have been doing a fantastic job for years. And I think that this role of celebrity does play a major role in terms of continuing to elevate awareness. And it comes back to that diversity of perspectives and experiences. Like, the more people we have pushing together to help raise awareness and raise excitement, the better off we're going to be.